Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're down here at Pine Creek out on a walk, and I want to talk a little bit about footwear. And one of the videos I did a while back on the Zero Terraflex, I think I may have been a little bit off on, being that, that was all of a sudden that was my new shoe, and I was, in love with barefoot shoes. But I really do like them, and I think they're extremely comfortable. But since moving up here to North Central PA, I now have a new appreciation for the Ultras that I used to wear, and even the Keens that I wear, especially in the winter time, but also in that off season, fall and spring too. I didn't realize just how groomed the trails were back where I lived. And how can I put this? How well taken care of they were. I'm not saying stuff around here is not taken care of, but it's definitely a lot rockier. And there's so much more out here that it would be impossible for them to maintain them all like they did someplace like Moraine State Park or McConnell's Mills. You had a lot of volunteers out there that put in a lot of effort, as well as the employees there, to maintain those trails and keep them really nice and taken care of. And don't get me wrong, it's the rail trail. This is well taken care of. You know what I mean? A lot of people use this. But when you're out hiking up there in them mountains, some of those trails don't get used as much. And they're a lot rockier, a lot more puddles, a lot of stream crossings, and so on and so forth. So today's video is more just in general about footwear, and I guess how I was wrong about Zeros being my last pairs of shoes that I would ever own. And excuse me if I'm all over the place. Snakes are all over the place for this time of year, so I gotta watch for him and make sure he isn't about to pee on a rattlesnake. But I found a new appreciation. You see now, I don't know if you can get the video right. I'm wearing Ultras today. I dug my Ultras out, my Lone Peaks. A while back I dug them out. I had several pairs of them over the years, and I never realized how much better they were, especially when it came to water crossings, and how much faster they dried and drained when you had to cross a creek or whatever. That's very important, in my opinion, when you're out hiking, to have a shoe that does dry quickly. Obviously, if you're out backpacking and such, that they'll dry, somewhat overnight, etc. You can stick them out in the sun when you get back to camp, and when you get to your camp, and if you're there for a couple hours, they'll dry. These things, especially in air conditioning, they'll dry overnight in the house. The one thing that I have noticed with them, when they do get wet though, is I call it walking out of the insoles. The insoles in them will start to go back and come up the back of your ankle. That is one thing I don't like about the Lone Peaks that I've had an issue with. And just how much better they are when it comes to rocky terrain. And the Keens especially. It takes a little bit to get used to them. I got a new pair of Keens back in the springtime, and I wore them a little bit because I was running into a lot of mud. We had a real wet spring. Now, don't get me wrong, I wore them, was it last Wednesday, I think, and I ended up with a blister on my pinky toe. Some of that's my fault. I didn't I haven't been wearing my toe separators. That usually helps out with that kind of stuff. But I wore them on last Wednesday, because I thought that was the right one to wear based on what I had to do and what was going on. And I ended up with a blister from them. You'll get that. I mean, they're not going to be necessarily as comfortable or perfect, but sometimes you need to go for that route for other reasons. Sometimes you have to deal with that blister because it's super muddy out, and it's either that or deal with wet feet. And I mean, if it's really cold out, you don't want wet feet, and so on and so forth. So another thing that I have to say about that is everybody's feet are different. If you have a narrow foot, you're going to want a narrow shoe. If you have a wide foot, you're going to want a wide shoe. You know, everybody, different arches, all that fun stuff. And you have to take into account what is best for you and the situation that you're in. I found for me that zeros were great when I lived back in Beaver County and hiked at Moraine and McConnell's Mills all the time. They worked really well there, albeit the Ultras always had a little bit better grip, especially new ones, on the wet rocks at McConnell's Mills. The Zeros still worked really well because those trails really were beat in and well groomed. Oh, where did I go the other day? Can't even think of where I was, but I ended up on a real rocky, did the Fred Woods Trail, and it was real rocky. And I was extremely glad that I had these and not my Zeros, because truthfully, my feet would have been they would have hurt more than what they did with the Ultras on. So, I'm going to conclude this by saying, always pick the footwear that's best for you. Don't just watch a YouTube video, because a YouTube video is somebody's experience that they have had with something. And while you can take some of that with a grain of salt and learn from it, you need to try certain things yourself and find what works best for you, because the shoes that work best for me aren't always going to work best for you. Maybe you don't mind having wet feet. You know, I'm out for a day hike. I don't really want wet feet if I have something to do afterwards. You know, like, because I live in the middle of nowhere, I may have to stop at Lowe's and run in Walmart and stuff, you know, after a hike with him, because I'm down at Bald Eagle. And, you know, I mean, just to get down into town to those things is 30 miles. So if I'm down there, I'm doing other stuff if I need to. So it's not always about what's best for me on just that hike. I have to think about what's best for that entire day. So, again, in concluding this, do what's best for you always. Pick the right shoe. Only you can decide that, not anybody else. You can watch videos on YouTube, you can read reviews and such, but you really have to try things for yourself to find out how well it's going to work for you. I really still like Zero shoes. I think Zero is a great company, and I'll still continue to buy some of their shoes. But I really have found a new appreciation for my Lone Peaks and my Keens up here, because they seem to work really well in certain situations. I hope you enjoy the video. Hit the like button, subscribe for future updates and such, and we'll catch you on the next one.